Okay, so as I mentioned in the previous video, I'm actually working on a project. It's a cave, uh, and there are three. I have three. These are all hand painted materials, which I've made. So we're not actually getting into making these things. But what I want to talk about, because it occurred to me that this is something that is actually really useful to know. Um, this is called a multi-material blend. Now, I wanted to make this brick wall, but it's going to be inside a cave, and I want the rocks in the wall to be made of the same material that the cave is. In other words, somebody, they chopped up bits of the cave and they made uh, bricks out of it. So this is basically my palette for this is going to be an Unreal, so this is going to be my palette for the materials that I'm going to use for my terrain, and I wanted to reuse them here. So what a multi-material blend does is, as the name would imply, it can blend up to, I believe, 16 different materials. Now, you could do this using a series of black and white maps, and you could daisy chain it out, and you could, if you had 16 materials, that would be an awfully long daisy chain. What you can also do is create a color map. And this function, a color mask, I should say, rather, and this functions in exactly the same way as a grayscale mask would, only each one of these colors then can represent a material. And you can just have this one thing deal with all of it. It's a much more efficient way of doing it. I'm going to take a break here right now from Substance Designer, and like I said, this is a mask that I made in Photoshop. Oops, I should actually remove that. Where I actually made my own tiled texture. This black and white mask was made from this photograph. Uh, it's incredibly easy to make your own tiled textures. Now, that being said, I spent several hours making this because once I did the basic thing, then you go in and you hand fix everything. Um, but it won't take us but a few minutes to learn how to make our own tile texture, and I thought that would be pretty good. So I just grabbed this up off the internet. This is actually the photograph that I used to make the map that we just looked at. So I didn't use this bit, obviously. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm pressing Alt and I'm bringing this down. I'm just going to kind of basically I'm going to pull this out, delete that bit, and we're starting to sort of get my pen tool out. So I'm going to get my clone tool. This is not a tutorial for Photoshop. I'm assuming people have a basic idea of what's going on here. So I'm just going to get my clone tool and do a little cloning. Oops. To get, a basic thing going here. I'm just going to get, oops, I didn't need to do that. To get rid of this line. We're not going to take a long time doing this. We're going to go back to the one that I spent some time on. But I just want to show you the concept. So this sort of looks now like a map that we want, but it's not tiled. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to merge these layers, and I'm also going to, oops, hold on, so let me move my, I'm also going to crop my image. There, okay. So I'm going to just hold Alt down and make myself a new layer here. Then I'm going to go up to Filter, Other, Offset. And what this does is it takes And you got to make sure you crop it first because it will offset everything. So if you've got stuff that's outside of your view here, it's going to factor that in. And you only want it to go up to these edges. So it's important to crop it first. The number you said here, well, you don't have to. For these purposes, what we want to do is we want to get rid of, we want to make sure that that seam on any one of these sides flows onto the other side perfectly. Now, this is a 2K map. So the map itself is 2048 by 2048. So we want to go exactly half of that in each direction. So the horizontal, I'm offsetting by 1024, same with the vertical. And now I've got this line that goes across the middle, and this is the actual edges, and I've just offset everything in either direction by 1024. Now there's a bunch of different ways you can do this. You can just go ahead and get back into your clone tool and start cloning away. That's one way of doing it, to get rid of this edge. Now this is where it starts, taking up some time. Or another thing that I also do often is, this is why I made a copy, because I often keep a layer underneath, and then you can go in and mask out. Let's get a softer edge. Too soft isn't that good either because it gets a little blurry, and so you can. I'm still cloning. Okay, wait a minute. So there's an, yeah, there you go. So you can do that too. And you go all the way through with a combination of the two. Now you want to keep this very bottom bit, you want to get as close as you can, but you don't really want to go up to the edge, because once we re-offset it back, you might end up with the same problem. So sometimes you need to sort of fine-tune it a little bit and go back and forth. But so we've gotten rid of that edge. Let's merge these two together. And now we can go ahead and offset it again. Got to move my record window. We can offset it again. And this is super messy. And you can see all my cloning and erasing edges. But it's now a tiled texture. It's very rough. It's pretty ugly. But that is the concept in a nutshell. What I did next to make that mask was then I went into image adjustments, black and white. And here it lets you, so I'm trying to get it as literally black and white as possible. And then we do some levels. And again, I'm and and so I did I did this, and then I went in and literally painted out white bits, and that took a while. So we're not going to do that. We're going to go right over here, and we're going. Oh, and then the final thing. Sorry. I went and I created a group. Hold on, I have to move this window. Where I went in with this height map. Actually, I had it so I could see what I was doing. And I just created, following along, again, this was very time consuming, and I created groups where I wanted my 3 materials to be. And so I wanted to space it out. I kind of worked on the aesthetics. And again, as I made this color map, I just made sure that, when I was doing my tiling, that that's why I put them in a folder together, because then I would offset both maps. and then work on the middles, and then do it again. So again, the concept of making these own tiled textures on your own is actually really easy, but the devil is in the details, and sometimes if you want a good map, you've got to spend a great deal of time on it. But these are the two basic maps that I was using to make this texture that we're now going to be looking at in Substance. So I had my three materials, and I get the multi-material blend node, which is in the library. Wants a dash. Yeah, there we go. So this guy here. Actually, let's start a new one. It's taken a while. Oh, it's choking. It ought to work itself out. There we go. Okay. This is actually in concept very similar to the material switches we were looking at. You have channels where you are assigning or unassigning all the available channels. So we're not going to be using diffuse. We're not going to be using specular or glossiness. And this leaves us with our 5 basic PBR channels. And this will apply to all the materials that you want to mix. So if you've got one that's got an emissive, obviously you've got to create an emissive channel here and then just leave it blank in the ones that don't have it. Here you pick the number of channels you want. So we're actually going to have 3. Now let's bring in our map. I wonder if it'll let me do it. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to import the map. And where, I forgot what I called it. It's, oh, drywall material map. Okay, here we go. So this is the map that we created in Photoshop. Oh, it's really sluggish. Oh, come on, baby. There you go. And this is where it goes. So it's called color ID in here. So we'll hook that up. I think it's, my computer is not a happy computer right now, clearly. And now we just bring in our materials. It's very straightforward. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab where are we? Rocks. I mean, this works for any material at all. So we have this one. This one. And okay, rock 3. Okay. All right, there you are. And this guy. And then you can just hook them up. And since we've already worked out our various channels, it's just going to automatically do them for us. And they all have the same one, so it's all very easy here. And there's only really one thing left to do. We need to assign each one of these materials a color. Now you'll notice material 1 is the one on the bottom. So it's not going to mask that out. That's going you're overlaying these other two on top of this one. So you're only assigning colors to material 2 and material 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to get it to come up in, where's my, what is going on with this thing? So eventually this should show up in my 2D view, which it doesn't seem to want to do. Hold on a second. Yeah, my substance is just being really funky right now. I want this in my 2D view because I'm going to single click back here on my multi-material blend, and I'm going to go down. So material 2 is this one right here. So I decide which color I want to assign it, and I just go into the color picker and I pick that color. Oh, we don't have it hooked up. We can't look in the 3D view. Let's do that so we can see what we're doing. Here we go. And then we go, right now though, you see this color that it automatically assigns, this is not exactly the same green. So you actually have to go and do that again. It's very particular because, I mean, it is going to take a large number of colors. So it's very specific in the colors that it uses. So now it's assigned that. We've added in that exact green, and it's put that in the map for us. Obviously, to get this to look like a brick wall, I did a bunch of other things too. But that's and it's in, you know, and it's the whole material. So it's importing the height maps and all the other maps along with it. And then again, you can, and what this does is it, you know, frees you up to use the parameters that you've set up in each material here. And you know, with this one color map, we've managed to do what it would have taken several black and white maps daisy chained together to achieve. And that, in a nutshell, is the multi-material blend. So I hope that's been useful, and I'll see you in the next video.